3 days previous to his final disappearance, Nagmahashaya asked Mr. Chakravarti to consult the almanac and find out an auspicious day for departure. He could not understand that he was asked to find out the day for the final departure, and so he said innocently, 13th of Posh after 10 o'clock in the morning is an auspicious moment for starting. Mr. Chakravarti was dumbfounded when Nagmahashaya said, "If you so permit, I shall finally start on that day." He felt extreme mortification and went out and related everything to the wife of Nagmahashaya, whereupon she said, "My boy, no use crying anymore. He will not live any longer. Let his will be done. Let Sri Ramakrishna's will be done." 2 days prior to his death, his wife, Mr. Chakravarti, and another devotee were sitting by his bedside, and he was lying with his eyes closed. Suddenly he opened his eyes with a busy look, said, "Sri Ramakrishna has come here, and he intends to show me the places of pilgrimage." Then, having turned his eyes towards Mr. Chakravarti, he said, "Well, mention the names of holy places, and I shall see them." Mr. Chakravarti had been to Haridwar lately, and he mentioned the name. At this, Nagmahashaya, with great excitement in his voice, went on saying, "Haridwar, Haridwar, there comes down Mother Ganga from the Himalayas with a murmuring sound. The banks and the trees on them are dancing, as it were, with her waves. Look, there on the other side stands the Mount Chandi. Ah, what a beautiful bathing ghat it is! How many beautiful stairs, one after other, have gone down to the bed of the river. Wait for a moment, please. I have not bathed for these last 20 years. Let me take a plunge in the sacred waters and make my life blessed." Then, with the words, "O Mother Ganga, the Saviour of the fallen and the Deliverer of the sinners," Nagmahashaya sank into a deep samadhi. After he had come down from that superconscious state, it seemed as if he really had finished his bath just then. The name of Prayaga was next mentioned to him. He bowed down, saying, "Hail Yamuna, hail Ganga." Then he went on, "Is it not that the hermitage of Bharadwaja was situated somewhere here? But I don't see it. There I see the confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna. There are on the other side, I can see the range of mountain. Alas, Thakur is not showing me the hermitage of Bharadwaja." Then he fell into a doze. A few minutes passed in that condition, and again he said, "Ah, I see it now." After a little pause, he continued, "Well, Mother, thou art the consort of the great Emperor of emperors. Thou art the great power herself manifest. How is it that thou art wandering like this? Hail Rama, hail Rama." And he fell into samadhi. When he was again in his ordinary consciousness, The name of Banaras was mentioned, and Nagmahashaya at once began to murmur, "Hail Shiva! Glory to the Lord of the universe! Hara Hara Vyom Vyom!" Then he said, "This time I will be dissolved in the great Lord." Then Puri, Sri Jagannath Kshetra was mentioned. Nagmahashaya continued saying, "Yonder stands the stately temple of the Lord. There is the Ananda Bazar where prasadam can be had." He also mentioned the name of Sri Chaitanya once or twice. Thus the night advanced gradually, and it struck 4. He felt a little drowsy and soon fall asleep. After 8 o'clock in the morning of the 13th Posh, he was falling into ecstasies continually. Mr. Chakravarti began to utter loudly the name of Ramakrishna. His picture was placed before his eyes, and then Mr. Chakravarti said, "This is the picture of your master, in whose name you have renounced everything." He looked at it and then saluted with folded palms. Then he uttered in his feeble voice, "Grace, grace, grace out of thine own boundless mercy." These were the last words in his life. At about 9 o'clock in the morning, all signs of the last moment were visible. His eyes became little red, his lips began to quiver as if he was muttering to himself something. After about half an hour, his eyes suddenly became fixed on the tip of his nose. The hairs stood on their ends, and tears of the divine love were to be seen in the corners of his eyes. When it was 5 minutes past 10, Nagmahashaya lay motionless in Mahasamadhi. It became plain to all. At the instance of his wife, he was laid on a lounge outside, covered with a nice clean bed. Till then, the life did not completely ebb away. 5 or 10 minutes after he was brought outside, all breathing stopped. All was over with him. He had retired from the stage of the world. Even then his face was shining with an effulgence. There were still tears of divine love in the corners of his eyes, half-closed eyes. Cries of wailing rent the skies. One of his devotees told the wife, "Mother, be calm, please. Don't be unnerved. We are your sons living to look after you." When the first shock of bereavement had abated a little, at the wish of the wife of Nagmahashaya, a devotee went out to the market to bring ghee, sandalwood, and all else that was necessary for cremating the body. The old experienced people of the village examined the body and found that it was still warm. They were conferring whether it was right to cremate the body, when a devotee said, "We must not hurry up for the cremation of the body of a saint like Nagmahashaya. At least we must wait for 12 hours more to be fully sure of his death." So it was settled that the body should be put on the pyre only after 10 o'clock at night. His devotees wanted to take a photo of him. When Nagmahashaya was living, he was requested many times to sit for his photograph, but he objected always, saying, "Why should you be anxious to take a picture of this cage of flesh and bones?" Now that he was silent, they had him photographed after decorating his body with garlands and sandal paste. From this photograph, the late printer Priyanath Sinha had an oil painting drawn, which is still preserved in Nagmahashaya's house, and the likeness that we have given in the frontispiece is one after his oil painting. Before sunset, the widow of Nagmahashaya worshipped the hallowed feet of her lord with flowers, bilva leaves, and other offerings. After circumambulating the dead body 7 times, she wiped his feet with her long hairs. His body was decorated with flowers and garlands. When the news of his death spread over the village, from every quarter men and women of all ages came pouring to see the body of the saint for the last time. Each house in the village was filled with clamorous wailing. After 10 o'clock at night, the pyre was arranged with the sandalwood, and after all the ceremonies were gone through, fire was lighted. Then a Brahmana devotee made a variety homa and offered bilva leaves on the funeral pyre. In the meantime, Swami Saradananda came to the spot and fell prostrate by way of homage before the pyre. In 3 hours the cremation was over. His widowed wife extinguished the fire. All the devotees felt themselves sanctified by the touch of the holy remains of the saint. Thus, at the age of 54, 3 years after the departure of his father, the mortal frame of Nagmahashaya ceased to exist at his own birthplace Deobhog. What remained was but the ashes. At the instance of Swami Saradananda, the remaining ashes were put in a jar, and a song of the Divine Mother to Nagmahashaya's own composition was placed inside along with the ashes. The jar was placed underneath the cremation ground. The image of goddess Kali he had worshipped on his deathbed was placed over it, and a beautiful canopy was put up over it. Swami Saradananda, after giving necessary instructions, reading the outstanding deaths of Nagmahashaya, left for Dhaka.